Hey guys, so I'm here to do my September wrap up. So I read 6 books this month, which is on par for my average. I read 1,814 pages, and for the most part, the books I read this month were really, really good. I started off with like a 2-star book. It wasn't that great. As the month went on, my books got higher and higher and higher in my ratings, and I ended up with mostly 4-star books and a 5-star. So it ended up really, really great. So let's go ahead and get started with my lowest and then go to my highest rating. So the first book I read this month was also my lowest rating, 2.5 stars, High Rise by J.G. Ballard. It's the shortest book I've read this month. Only like 208 pages, but it took me weeks to read. I could not get into it. It's like a futuristic dystopian novel. It takes place in this high rise. It's like 40 stories. The higher classes are in the higher buildings, and the lower classes with the families, the working class, are down in the bottom floors. And it's kind of like Lord of the Flies for adults. Chaos ensues, and then things become just over the top and ridiculous. It becomes like war torn, and it's just bonkers. If you're into that, for me, it wasn't what I was going in expecting, and I did not really care for it. It just got too outlandish, too over the top. I'm sure it was all just symbolism about class and whatnot, but I just think it was, I don't know, I just couldn't get myself into it. It took forever to read. So unfortunately, it's only a 2.5 star, but I had high hopes for it, so kind of a bummer. So then I read The Love That Split the World, which I gave 3.5 stars to. I generally pretty much liked it. It is a story of love and time travel, and it's YA, and it was generally pretty okay. The hard thing for me was it felt just like a less well done version of The Time Traveler's Wife, and I'm trying not to be biased because that's one of my favorite novels. I think that if you're looking for like an adult version of this, more in the literary fiction side of things, it handles the time travel amazingly. I would check out The Time Traveler's Wife by Audrey Niffenegger. This was totally fine. I think the time travel aspects got a little wonky, I don't think that she had a really good handle on the rules of the system that she had created. But the language was very beautiful. I liked the characters, I liked the romance, and it had a really cool touch of like Native American culture and storytelling. So I actually really like that aspect too. So for, I got it at half price books for like $9, so it was worth the read. Plus it's one of my most beautiful books I have. Unfortunately, the next 2 books I don't have physical copies of. The first one is Brain on Fire. It is, I borrowed it from a friend. I gave it 4 stars. It is a memoir of a woman who endured a month of psychosis, and she spent, a solid month in a neuro part of a hospital trying to figure out what the heck was going on with her. Basically, they couldn't figure out what was going on with her. She was going to be institutionalized because she was clearly psychotic. But luckily they found out that she had this super, super rare inflammation of the brain disorder. And it was so rare that she was only like the 200 and something person to be diagnosed with it. And it's a true story. She is a journalist from New York. And she chronicled the story of her illness and her, 2 years of recovery after she was well again. And it was so well written, and it wasn't too lofty in like science terms that I couldn't understand it, but it was wonderful. If you're looking for a memoir and it has a good science base, psychology, neuropsychology, kind of all that combined, highly recommend that. And I finally read The Girl on the Train. I did return this book to the library already, so I don't have a copy of it. And I gave that 4 stars too. A lot of people didn't like it. I actually really did like it. There's not really much I'm gonna really tell you that no one else has told you. It's about a woman on a train who she passes by every day and sees this family or this couple, and she witnesses something and, kind of involves her life maybe a little too much into these people and tries to like play detective and figure out what the heck happened. Because her ex and his new wife is also part of this family and their story. So I actually really liked it. As we all know, it's being made into a movie, and I'm really excited to see that. I gave it a 4 star. I thought it was a really fast-paced thriller. I actually liked the characters. They were not likable. They were super flawed, but I think they were intended to be that way. So I'm one of the people that actually really liked that one. So I'm glad that I finally read it, because I kind of didn't want to read it for the longest time because it was so hyped and so popular, but I just had to give in. So finally read that one. I also finally read The Wrath of the Dawn by Renee Ahdieh. I gave this 4.5 stars, and I was really surprised that I did, because this is not my genre at all. This is like royalty fantasy, royalty fiction. Like, it takes place in like a castle, and there's princes and princesses. Not my thing. It's got a fantasy element, it's got a little bit of magic, curses and spells and stuff, which I wasn't sure, but I've heard a lot of people say they really, really liked it regardless of the genre, and I agree. It's about it's a retelling of 1001 Nights, or is it 1,000 Nights? 1001 Nights, and it's about a young girl named Shahrazad who volunteers to be the bride for like a boy king who it's well known that every night he takes a new bride and she's murdered by dawn. And a friend of hers, or is it a cousin? I don't really know. She falls victim to him, so in order to gain, she pledges to get revenge avenge her friend to marry this boy king with the plan to murder him. However, she begins to fall in love, and then that's where the story takes off. And I will say, it's like Twilight in the Middle East, which may or may not be a good thing. I loved Twilight when it came out, and I'm so embarrassed to admit that. Now, as an adult, I'm like mortified that I ever liked Twilight. But it was fast-paced. I think I didn't give the full 5 stars because, you know, I don't think the characters were super developed. The romance was super insta-love, which I'm not really a fan of. I didn't really understand why they were so drawn to each other. I think it was kind of thrown together, I think, in that way. But it didn't stop the fact that it was a page-turner, and I read it really fast, even though it's pretty thick. So I finally read this one, and I'm happy about it. And I actually will pick up the sequel, which is saying a lot for me because I never, ever, ever read sequels. I never, like, if I hear that something's a sequel or a trilogy or in a series, I just won't even bother. I knew this one was a duology going into it, and I still picked it up, and I'm actually going to read the second part, which is, like, mind blown. The last book I'm going to talk about is The Hours by Michael Cunningham. I gave this 4.75 stars, but on Goodreads I rounded it up to a 5, so it's kind of a 5-star rating book. I've seen the movie. It was made, a few years ago, and it stars these lovely ladies, Meryl Streep, Nicole Kidman, and Julianne Moore. And I love the movie. I never knew there was even a book until recently, and I loved it. It had the language was gorgeous. It tells the story of 3 women that live in completely different time frames and different eras, and they all have similar themes. There's death and suicide and depression, and coping with your role as a woman in different time eras. I was mostly drawn to Laura Brown's character, her third of the story, which is her right there, and the story of her in this 1950s housewife role with child and a husband, and she's pregnant, and not wanting that life, like not thinking that life suited her. And it was so heartbreaking and just beautifully written. I really identified with her, even though I don't face the struggles that she faces, but because her life is similar to mine, and the fact that we've got children and a family and married, and there's this role that's kind of expected as a woman. I just thought it was beautiful, and I wrote about this in my Goodreads review. The best part of this book was a 3-page description of her son sifting flour for a cake. It was so amazing. I kept reading these paragraphs, like mouth agape, that I could be so drawn in by the simple description of something so basic as making a cake. Anyway, it's so well written. I think I would have given it a full 5 if all the stories intrigued me and pulled me in as much as Laura Brown's story did. But either way, it was amazing, fantastic, and I'm going to keep this book. I'd like to get a different cover. I don't like movie covers, but whatever. So these are the 4 books. I wish I had the other 2, but whatever. That I read this month, and overall it was a good month. I really liked most of what I read. So now I'm just gearing up for my October reads. If you don't already know, October is Spookathon month. It is our readathon happening the 17th through the 23rd. I'm gonna embed the playlist for Spookathon down below. It has the different videos, have the challenges, giveaway information, just the basic announcements and stuff. So it's not too late. Get your TBRs ready for that, and I hope that you participate, because next month's wrap up is going to have a lot of that stuff in there as well. And that's it. I will see you guys for Spookathon, hopefully, right? Yes? No? Hopefully? All right. See you guys later. Bye.